Well, good evening. It's Monday, April 28th, 2025. Welcome to episode 109 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And man, can you believe it is less than a week away from entering the month of May? That is moving up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's blazing away. And yeah, we've also just crossed the 100-day threshold of the Trump presidency. And we're doing our thing here in Northern California, working toward making ourselves better and stronger each day. And I hope that you all are doing the same out there. But we're glad that you've joined us this evening. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel to drop them in the comment section. Drop them like it's hot, right, Rebecca?
Like it's hot.
That's right.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. And tonight, we are yet again doing another kind of an impromptu, unprepared episode. A lot going on this week around here, and didn't know if we were going to come on, quite honestly. I was thinking, maybe we'll just sit this one out this week. But, I thought to myself, we might as well come on here and share some thoughts from the week and get caught up with our friends from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Hey, Bobby.
Hey, what's up, Bobby?
And without training wheels?
Bobby Spags in the house from Midwest Preparedness Project. Hope all things are well out there in Kansas land. And without training wheels. And I know Skane's girl's listening to us. She's out in the yard feeding the animals. So
she doesn't have to look at our beautiful faces.
Well, I mean, I guess
that's the bonus for her.
I guess that would be the bonus, right? So, but anyhow, first things first, how you doing this evening, Rebecca?
I am doing good. Started to amp up my training again. My foot's feeling a little bit better. Kind of excited for this run to be over.
Oh, you're already looking forward to it being over, boy. It's gonna be a long 100 miles for you if you're already looking forward to the finish line.
No,
you haven't even started.
No, because Born to Run is this huge festival party.
Yes, it is.
And I guess that's part of my desire to want to try to get it done in 2 days, is so that I can enjoy the rest of festivities.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think it was the very first one we went. One of the activities they do is called the beer mile.
Oh yeah, they do that every year.
Yeah. And I decided to do it one year.
Yeah.
I don't drink.
Yeah.
So I was trying to convince people to, well, let me start. The beer mile is not you run a mile and drink a beer. It's you drink a beer, you run a quarter of a mile, you drink another beer.
Yep.
You run the other quarter of the mile. And anyway, till you finish.
Yep. You drink 4 beers and you run a mile, and you see how fast you can do it.
Yeah. And if you're not a drinker.
Yeah, she was pretty tipsy, which was kind of fun to watch. But
I was trying to convince people to drink the beer for me, and I would run, and they're like, "No, we've already drank our beer."
Yeah. No, it's a good time, man. I'm looking forward to going back there. In fact, we might shoot a little bit of content because I'm excited about you doing your race, and I'm going to be there supporting you and in whatever way that I can, because that's a big undertaking, man, for anybody. To, regardless of whether or not you've got 4 days to do it, that's a lot of fucking miles to put on your feet and to do. And I know you want to do it in under that. So we'll see how it goes. But we might shoot a little content.
We do
make a video.
But what I was going to say, as far as running, I have a neighbor who's actually very kind in letting me utilize their driveway to help add the miles as I'm training. But in that process, I'm also getting to know my neighbors a lot better than I did before.
That's good.
Because we live out on bigger property, but as I'm driving past their houses or around their houses, because they let me use their driveways, they're all cheering me on, and I'm getting to know them. And sometimes I'll actually pause and have a conversation with them, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Because I've never really done that really to any degree since we've lived here.
Yeah, well, initially we did, when you get somewhere new and it's, hey, everybody's like, hey, who are you? And, everybody's butt sniffing to, meet new people or whatever. Who's the new people in town? but we've been here 24 years. And then you know how it is when you've lived in a place for a while, unless you're close with your neighbors, and people just do their thing and they keep to themselves. So it is really important to make those connections and reach out that way. So that's kind of cool that you're doing that. But
yeah, it's really nice because even if I'm not running and I'm just outside, they always honk and wave now, where before perhaps they didn't.
Yeah.
There's also another neighbor who I have seen, and he just drives by, and he is looks like he's the grouchiest man on the earth. I mean, that's just the way his appearance is. But he waves to me now every time.
Yeah, he's not trying to pick you up or anything. He's not hitting on you, is he?
No, he still looks very grouchy.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. We got you some new shoes though, too, right?
We did.
Right.
So I've got a chance to wear. I got two new pair.
Yeah, you gotta have wheels, man. You gotta have tires for your car. So that's good.
Yeah. So I had a chance to try out both pair.
Yep.
A pair yesterday and a pair today.
Yep.
And I'm pleased that I like both of them, since I've now run outside and can no longer return them.
Yep.
So that's a bonus.
So your mileage is coming up. You did about 30 miles last week, and you're kind of back into your training cycle. My training's going well. I put in about 82 miles last week. Did a 22 miler yesterday with about 4,500 feet of climbing, and it's coming along good. So we're both moving toward our A race and getting a little stronger each day. So congratulations, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And of course, the homesteading stuff kind of suffers a little bit. It's a balancing act.
It totally is.
So something has to
Yep.
take the back seat, we say.
Yeah. But again, like you say, it's a balancing act, and you just have to, as with anything, you have to budget your time throughout your day. And it's just a time management issue. Everybody has things that they're juggling. Everybody that will listen to this that has responsibilities or a life with a job and a family and, all of the things that everybody has to deal with, it's no different than us. But, we just have the luxury of maybe not having to get up and go to an 8 to 5, but we still have this place, which if you really wanted to make it, you could make this place an 8 to 5. You could get up and do shit around this place all fucking day long, and it still would never be done.
I would say there's a lot of days that we do that.
Yeah. And so you have to find the balance for the things that you really enjoy doing. And that's just makes you a better person. I was talking to my daughter about that last night, and she's working a lot, and you have to be able to find that time to, it makes you a better father, better wife, better, everything is better when you have time for yourself, where you can reset. And so it's important that you do that. But
yes. And perhaps if our son is listening, happy birthday.
Yep. Happy birthday. It's his birthday. He's what now? 30,
he's 33.
33. Huh. I thought he was 33 last year, but hell, I can't keep up with my own birthday. So,
well, we have the two boys, and I always think one's in 91 and one's in 92. And I always think he's in 91, and he's not. He's the 92.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday. So
yes.
Anyhow, let's move on to some homestead news. Kind of, again, a mixed bag with the weather. We're still not out of that wanting to be winter mode. We've been getting, we just had 2 days of kind of blustery, wet, rainy weather. But today, when I walked out, it was birds chirping and bluebird skies. And I thought, this is going to be the day that we go out and we butcher some chickens. We're going to go out and we're going to butcher some up and coming roosters, because they're just getting a little cocky, if you know what I mean. They're getting a little bit too long in the hey, I'm a rooster, and they're trying to dominate some of our older hens and all of that. So,
and even the young ones.
Yeah. So that was what we did this morning. We went out, and Rebecca helped me select 3 that were obvious to us. And I got them parted out. We got them, put down and parted out. And I asked Rebecca to join me, because she usually doesn't do that. It's usually I just do my thing and then, give her the parts. But what was your thoughts, Rebecca, about watching me part those birds out. Do you think that's something that you could actually do?
I think I could do it and probably not have any problem at all. But
Yes.
again, my dad was a butcher.
Yeah.
So I've been exposed to that all of my life. So
Right.
I don't look at it and go, oh, that's disgusting.
Right.
It doesn't freak me out.
Yeah. It's actually, it's like anything, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I know that there's a lot of people, we talked about it this morning, but a lot of people look at that sort of thing and they're like, oh, I could never do that. I could never butcher a chicken. I could never do that. But, they have no fucking problem going to Chick-fil-A.
You know what?
And
When
eating
they
a chicken sandwich.
when they fly up and smack you in the face.
Well, see, now you're starting to develop some hate. So it'd be easy for you because you got some priors with them. They're a little bit more aggressive with her sometimes. And then that makes her pissed. So she's like, yeah, I could do it. I could totally butcher that damn thing. but anyhow, I don't know. I just find that interesting. We were talking about that a little bit this morning, that people have, they have no problem eating a hamburger. They have no problem eating meat, but they can't like physically do it themselves. And, I mean, it's an interesting like thing. And the more I think that people have the ability to know where their food comes from and to process it correctly, and to know that it's being done in a humane way, and how how that animal was raised, from the standpoint of it being raised ethically and what you're putting into it, it's just it just becomes more natural that way,
I think the only time that there's been anything that I thought was going to turn my stomach and I wasn't going to handle it is one of my best friends asked me to go in with her when she was having her youngest child. And as the baby was being born, my stomach kind of turned a little bit, but only for a second. And then immediately it was like, oh, this is really cool. Because I'd never been at that end.
Right. Yeah. So why don't you talk about what you did with the parts? Because, we're doing different things with different parts. So
we are right now.
So let me just preface what you're going to say by saying really the only parts that I pull off of the bird are the feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I pull off the legs and thighs, right? Drumsticks and thighs, all kind of in one piece. Boom. There's your quarters. And then I pull off the breast cutlets and the chicken tenders. And so why don't you talk about what you're going to do with those now that you've got them in some form of like what we're going to do with those?
Yeah. So right now, currently, the chicken feet are being freeze-dried. Our dog seems to really, really like them.
Yeah.
They kind of blow up like a piece of popcorn.
Yeah.
The little paws on the bottom.
Yeah.
And she just loves them to death.
Yeah.
The breasts and the chicken tenders, we will be actually eating ourselves. So they are.
What are you going to make with them? What do you think? They're just in the fridge right now.
There are so many possibilities. I could either make chicken tacos.
Oh boy.
Which is what I was thinking of doing.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had tacos in a while.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about doing that or chicken enchiladas.
Right. Okay.
So one of the two. And then of course the drumsticks.
Okay.
Are going to be put in for broth, and then I'll end up pulling the meat off, and then I'll be packaging that up for our dog as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That meat's not as good. I mean, obviously we could eat it. I like dark meat, the flavor better. And these are super young birds. So it would be something that we could eat, but we just decided to go that route with them this time.
Well, there's a lot of tendons.
Well, of course, that's what a leg is and a thigh.
I know, but I mean, as far as they are young, so they're not very big. So there's a lot of tendon in there. So there's just there's not very much meat. Gotcha.
Yeah. But these are going to be some deliciously tender breasts and tenders because they are young birds. And yeah, so we got them out of here today. I
vote chicken tacos.
Yeah. Let's do that. I'm not opposed to that. It sounds really good. You're getting me kind of hungry talking about it. Let's see here. Yeah. And then what I do with the rest of the carcass, guys, not to fret, not to fear. The birds weren't wasted because I had a vacancy in the maggot bucket because the raccoon that I put in there about a week and a half ago. Was just kind of hanging out. He's already been consumed for quite some time, and it's essentially just bones and hair and hide in there right now. So I was able to make some space for the carcasses that I wound up with those chickens. And so I put them in the maggot bucket, and in about 72 hours ish, give or take, they'll be dropping fly larvae into the chicken yard. And the chickens are going to get to be the beneficiaries of the remainder of that protein from those chickens. So
Chickens eating chickens.
well, I mean, it's, in a kind of roundabout way. Yeah. So nothing goes to waste, guys. That's the way we do it.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so right now we are also on the homestead. We're harvesting a few things off of our property. We're not obviously this early in the season having an abundance of harvest, but there are some things right now that that we're getting a chance to harvest. And so we're getting a few, I would say, what about maybe a half dozen or more a day are coming due as far as being ripe from our strawberries that we have out there. And
yes, and they are wonderful on our salads.
Yeah, and that's,
I just ate one, as a matter of fact, right before we got on here. It's very tasty.
Oh yeah, no. We'll have more than we know what to do with here once things heat up and they really start to push out their fruit. But like I say, right now we're just pulling about a half dozen a day, which doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of the week, that is something nice to add to your salad. And I did plant a good number of more strawberry this year, so those will start to produce for us, and once they get a little closer to maturity. But it's pretty nice, right?
What is? I'm sorry.
Double
I can't
Oz. Good evening. How are you doing this evening? Thanks for joining us. And another thing that we're harvesting is we've harvested. Starting to harvest some artichoke for the season. And also, we're still getting some asparagus, a little bit of asparagus coming up, and we're starting to harvest that as well. But the artichoke.
That's very tasty on salad as well.
Everything's tasty on a salad.
Do it till it's just slightly tender. And
yeah. The artichokes, I want to talk a little bit about artichokes. I don't know if you guys plant them in your gardens, if that's something you even like, but they are a great perennial. They are a fantastic companion plant in a gilded arrangement within your edible landscapes. And so they serve a number of different functions. And anytime that you are planting with that in mind, you're saying you're planting a fruit tree or something, you want to try to, as best you can, create a diverse arrangement around that, so that there's different things that are going to be attracted at different times. It's going to bloom at different times, and it has multifunctionality. And as I said, the artichoke does serve a number of different functions. Obviously, one is food function, right? You can eat them, as we do. So that's obviously a benefit. They are a great pollinator. If you allow the thistle, if you allow the flowering portion, the artichoke, to open up and to put out its flower, it's not only aesthetically very pleasing, it's a very beautiful purple flower that's vibrant. You can see it from a long ways away. It's pretty, right?
It's very pretty.
Yeah. And so aesthetically, it's pretty, and it also attracts pollinators, both bumblebees as well as honeybees. They're just incredibly attracted to that.
My friends.
Yeah, they get down in the flower, and they're just down in there, just rolling around in it, And so, from the standpoint of pollination, they're great, but they're also very attractive to a predator, the ladybug, and ladybugs. You'll see them all over that plant. And the reason that they're there is because the artichoke is very attractive to aphids. It's got a lot of sticky sap on it, and the aphids are going to be drawn to that plant. And it's almost like a sacrificial plant. It's a trap crop, if you will. They call them trap crops because you're planting that so that you draw in something to that plant that you don't want to attack something else. So by having artichoke in and around your fruit trees, the aphids are going to be attracted to that. Thereby, you're going to see all kinds of ladybugs on there just munching away, doing their thing. And so those are beneficials, but they're to eat those predators. And they're going to be more attracted to the artichoke plant rather than getting up and eating your tender foliage on your fruit tree. And so it's a great thing to plant for that reason.
Hello, London and Hogs 14.
Hogs is in the house in London. Good evening. Thanks for joining us, guys. Another thing that artichokes that I plant them for is when you're planting them in your guild. Let's say you have an apple guild or, whatever tree it is, and you're gilding around that. Plant it so that whatever the general drip line is for that tree, once it's mature, let's say it has a 10-foot crown, you're going to keep that tree trimmed to a 10-foot crown drip line. Plant the artichoke right at that 10-foot. And so what that's going to do is the leaves that are hanging out beyond that 10 feet are going to capture rainwater and draw it back in toward the plant. So it's essentially bringing water back in. It's a drip line extender. So just something to consider when you're planting and you're putting in plants. Do it with some intentionality and think about why you're planting them, where you're planting them, and for what purpose. But they should have in a plant guild or a food forest, they should have food value. That's like critical, that if you're planting a food forest, you should be planting things in there that provide some form of food value, but then there's also other functions that you should be looking at from the standpoint of pollination or soil building or what have you, mulching or nutrient accumulation, right? It's a great plant. It is. So
growing up, when you were served an artichoke, what was your favorite part?
The mayonnaise.
Yes. You would eat the leaves, right?
Right.
Because you like the mayonnaise.
Of course. Yeah.
And you wouldn't have anything to do with the heart.
Yeah, I didn't want that shit.
And now that you're grown up.
Yeah. We feed the leaves to the chickens. Yeah, we don't mess with that, man. And it's all about so why don't you talk about what you're doing with that? Because what do we process this morning? Like 17, you said, right?
17 of them.
17 hearts. So.
I was able to marinate them. It took up basically a quart.
Okay.
And they're marinated in the refrigerator. They actually will go on our salads tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be fantastic. So talk about what you do. Would you boil them or what?
I boiled them till they were tender. You don't want them to get too soft because they are warm. As you take them out, they're going to continue to cook. So you don't want them to get like super, super floppy.
Overdone,
yeah. So they're still a little bit firm, but I mean they're pretty much cooked.
And then what are you marinating them in?
And they are marinated in lemon juice, olive oil, pepper, red pepper,
vinegar.
No, there's no vinegar in there. There's Italian seasoning and garlic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. That's fantastic. Love it. And we've still got a lot coming out there. Another thing that's kind of cool about artichokes is they're very easy to propagate. In fact, they'll propagate themselves because they are like a thistle. They're like a weed. And, they'll just, if you allow their seed to go, or allow the flower to go to seed, those seeds will cast out thousands of those. And then you'll have little artichoke plants that you have to you can easily dig them up, pot them, and then plant them, at your, choosing where you would like them, or you could sell them or whatever. Right. But they're very easy to reproduce, and they will in fact reproduce themselves just by seed naturally. So
you have another tree out there. It looks like it is loaded with peaches.
I've got the one that's going to be coming on the first is called a early treat, and it's an early. They're already starting to turn, starting to turn color, turn red.
Mm-hmm.
And I went out the other day and I actually thinned it quite a bit because it's just got way too much fruit on it. But, you want to thin your fruit trees at this time, go out and assess, how much you want to leave back. And, obviously you don't want them on the outside of your branches where they're going to pull your branches down too hard. You want to kind of keep most of the weight toward the center, but I typically want to go with like 2 to 3 per branch, depending, how far out they are.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got a lot of the stuff that we planted last year was all new. And then this year you probably don't want them to produce too much because you still want their roots to get well established. So you don't want to put a lot of their effort into the fruit production. So a lot of times you can go through even on your second year and knock most of that off, which is going to help to only encourage more root development, stronger trunk and everything. But yeah, we'll pull some of that fruit this year and enjoy it.
So there's a citrus that is out with the chickens. It's close to the propane tank.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it got any fruit on it last year.
What is it called? What?
I'm not sure. It's a citrus. Yeah. Is it a lemon?
That's blood orange.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's a blood orange. We may not get anything this year, and it may be until the next year. It could even be the following year before it starts to actually flower and decide, hey, you know what? I've done enough of whatever I'm going to do growing, my root structure and whatnot. And then all of a sudden it'll just boom, decide it wants to start producing. Mm-hmm. But when that tree does produce, it's going to be fantastic because everything that I have planted in that chicken yard is even though a lot of those trees are only about 3 years old, some of them look like they're 7 years old because they're just so happy in there with all that moisture, all of that fertility, and just constant, food that they're getting. They've done incredibly well. And that tree there is very happy. It's got a lot of, great looking foliage, new growth. And I continually have to evaluate it throughout the year to take that back. So it's not just putting in all of this vertical vigor. So, summer pruning's a thing with your fruit trees that I do. Mm-hmm. And it's something that, you need to kind of do, or you'll have a tree that's super gangly and, out of control. But yep, that's a blood orange.
Okay. For some reason, I thought it was a lemon.
Mm-mm. No, I've got a lemon right out this door right here. Let's see here. Yeah. Another thing that I got done around here this week was I spent a number of hours in the chicken yard moving probably about 7 to 8 yards of wood chips basically in preparation for the compost that's going to be made this year. Right now is the time where we're going to start getting a lot more grass clippings. Grass clippings are the primary nitrogen source, at least the green nitrogen source that I use in there to get my piles hot. Obviously, there's other sources of nitrogen that go in there, whether they be, vegetable produce and, urine and stuff from the animals' livestock bedding, chicken manure. There's a lot of nitrogen in the bedding. Mm-hmm. But as far as the green material, I don't get a lot of that in the wintertime. But right now, we're going to start getting a lot more of that, which is going to yield a lot more compost. And I wanted to spend some time in the chicken yard getting things right in preparation for that. And so I did create a video, which will probably be, after I finish editing it and get it uploaded, will probably be coming out this week. So for those of you who like to see chicken yard content, be looking out for that on the channel probably by this weekend. Yeah.
And you had a little helper too.
Yeah. We've had our grandson over, and he was giving me a little bit of a hand on the tractor. He's not going to miss a moment of the opportunity to get some stick time on the tractor with Grandpa.
Yes.
Right.
As a matter of fact, this is the first time around he never rode his tractor because he had to be out there with Papa.
Yeah.
So much so he brought his own headphones.
Yeah, that's right. He's set up now. But so also, Rebecca, what I got done I didn't tell you about this, but it's kind of cool. I was kind of stoked on it. I was noticing this for the last couple days, but it looks like I finally got the pigs potty trained.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's taken probably about 7 to 8 weeks. And I was thinking, man, these little dudes, man, they're not really getting with the program, but I've got 3 of them out there all in the same, pen. And I was getting not discouraged, but it's just like, gosh, damn it. Cause they would shit right in front of the gate, right when you walk in. So there's like, a bunch of pig crap right when you walk in the gate. And so I'd have to come in and, deal with that and get it over where they're supposed to go. But the last couple of days, they've been just spot on. It's like, it's almost like training a kid when you don't have to put pull-ups on them anymore,
Not really, because a kid takes like 3 years. if they could do it in 5 or 6 weeks, oh my goodness. You know how much money you would save in diapers?
Oh boy, huh? That's right. Oh gosh. Let's see here.
As a matter of fact, when we last had our grandson, I was all out of pull-ups, and I got him out of the bathtub and I looked at him and I said, you know what, with any luck, your mommy sent some pull-ups, and bless her sweetheart, she did. She sent about 3 pair.
Yeah. So anyhow, I don't know. Do you have anything else on the homestead? I mean, we've just been plugging away here doing normal stuff that everybody does. I know you've been out working in the pool and spending time doing that and getting things ready. And, there's just so much to do on a homestead always. It's almost like not worth talking about because everybody else is dealing with the same bullshit, right?
Right.
Running weed eaters and, getting things looking right, putting stuff away. And
well, the pool has actually consumed quite a bit of my time because, because of the weather and because of my allergies, I kind of ignored it, which is not a good thing to do. So it never got cleaned properly. I would go out there and then, of course, I would have, a sneezing attack and whatnot, and I would just let it go. And then, as I've stated before, our neighbor seems to like to mow between the trees when the wind is blowing our direction.
Yeah, of course. Why not?
So
it's not his fucking pool or his house. What's the problem? You got a problem with dust coming into your pool? I mean, geez.
No. And for some reason, the gophers, they like the pool, but they are not very good swimmers.
You caught 2 of them.
2 of them.
That's right. That's awesome. Yeah. So, hey, I got a quote for this week. I pulled this up because it kind of goes along with some of the stuff I wanted to talk about in here in just a second. And I don't have a big lineup of things to talk about. So we'll just kind of see where this goes. And if people in the chat want to talk about some things, maybe they'll sound off. But here's a quote for you, Rebecca.
Okay.
And I don't know if people actually agree with this or they're maybe this rubs them the wrong way. I don't know. But you tell me, is this a liberal or conservative? Quote goes as such: every immigrant who comes here should be required to, within 5 years, learn English or leave the country. Liberal or conservative?
I would say conservative. But again, that depends on when that quote was.
Okay. So I would say that, yes, it's a conservative. And even if it was a liberal, it wouldn't matter to me because I agree with that. Not necessarily to deport them or whatever, but I do think that it's important that people that come here understand where they're coming to and not decide, hey, I want to bring my shit from my place that I'm leaving because my place sucks and I want to come to your land and change your land.
Right.
And that's really what we've seen here over the course of a number of years, largely supported by politicians who have, I guess, in some ways lied about their intentions to uphold and defend the sovereignty of our nation. Right. And so that actually came from one Theodore Roosevelt. And it's an interesting quote. I wonder how well that would be received in today's society if one of our politicians said that I think Donald Trump's almost actually kind of said that.
I think he kind of has.
Right. And I think Trump likes Theodore Roosevelt quite a bit. Yeah, he's all about that. But
on top of that, just they're bilingual because, when they go home, they speak their own, which I think is beautiful. I'm not going against that, but there shouldn't be a translator in school or wherever you go to cater to their language. If they're coming here and the main language is English, then that's what they should learn.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. I don't think that people should be, not be able to speak their language, and then I also think that people should have their little enclaves that they want to have, right? If it's Chinatown or fucking Japantown or Little Italy or whatever it is, there's always been that in America, and I think that's what makes America so fantastic. Is you can be who you want to be here, but just don't expect everybody else to normalize what you do and bow to you as the quote, I guess, minority in a sense, right? I think there's this overreaction to people who are in the having this minority status, so much to the point that they, it's okay for discrimination to take place if you're Caucasian. That's okay because you're the majority, you're the patriarchy, you're this, you're that. And then other people who are the minority, they get made exceptions for, right?
Right.
I think if you're going to have a system where there's equal justice under the law, you need to have equal justice under the law and not make exceptions for one group over another based upon past discretion, past things that have happened, right? Oh, well, there was slavery, so we need to do this, to make up for it, or, this happened to the Native Americans, so we need to do this. That's, to me, I don't get that. Right.
I think London's asking you a question.
Okay. It says, Eric retired from CDF. Yes, I did. And now you are busy 24/7. I am very busy. But a lot of that's due to my choice in staying busy, because I could easily decide, hey, I'm not going to do anything today. I'm going to get up and just fucking sit around. And some days I kind of do that for a portion of the day. Right. But there's always things that are nagging at me, like, I got to get that done. So I can't just sit here all fucking day. I can't screw off all the time. But, I think I'm busy because I have a desire to stay busy and to stay improving myself, whether that's physically, mentally, or just what we've built here. Right.
Because I think Eric was born hyperactive and he has to burn himself out to be able to relax at night.
Well, I think that's what's different between you and I. I'm a different personality. You're a little bit more less than that. So, I think that's what makes us work. Right. I think if you were as high strung as me, or maybe as driven in certain areas as me, there'd probably be a lot more clashing. Right.
Oh, I agree.
Okay. Well, I'm born different, and I think
I'm not saying there's anything bad. I'm just diagnosing you, I guess.
Oh, I'm being diagnosed now.
You're being diagnosed.
Yeah. Well, it should be pretty obvious to anybody just paying attention, right? Yeah. Lisa Kordich. Yeah. Backwards world indeed. A lot of the things that we see, I don't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Right.
Right.
I think, here, both Rebecca and I, we are lifelong Californians. And I know there's a lot of people who would say, well, why don't you just leave? Why don't you, California's such a shit show. And it's all of these things. And the truth of the matter is that, you know what, no matter where you go, there's always going to be something better somewhere. And, you can always look at, oh, well, this is kind of fucked up in my state, so therefore I'm going to pull up stake and go somewhere else. And a lot of people have done that. And I think that that's a wise choice for them, and we've chosen not to do that because, our ties with family here. And it's just at our point in our life, it doesn't make any sense for us to do that.
So do you remember when we looked at houses in Iowa
Mm-hmm.
and checking into their property tax was
Mm-hmm.
like twice what it was in California?
Yeah.
Was like, nah, sorry.
Yeah, no, see, there's always something that counteracts it. Like this state has low property tax, but then they charge you up the ass over here on this, and they're going to get their money from you in some way. I think, California, the problem is that it's become this corrupted one-party state. It's very true. We don't really have much representation in Sacramento. There's, the Republicans aren't really a force here in this state. And so even though there's a lot of people, which you saw in the last election, came out in support, or I don't even know if it was so much in support of Donald Trump, but it was more of a rejection of the previous rejection of the Biden-Harris agenda.
Yeah.
And what the liberals had done for so many years. It just doesn't make any sense, and to Lisa's point, it's very backwards world here in California. One of the really big problems here in this state is illegal immigration and homelessness. And one could make the argument that there are a lot of illegal aliens here who are now contributing to the rise in the homeless issue. And I find it pretty ballsy. But for me, because I have a history with this guy, I've watched him since he was a mayor of San Francisco. It's not unexpected for me to see Gavin Newsom out there in full campaign mode right now, touting how awesome our state is, when he's been at the center of its decline since he's been a politician, starting in San Francisco, and then on through, lieutenant governor and now governor. And so it's just interesting to watch, him gaslight the public, and he's trying to sell people on the idea that California's a place that people are flocking to, right? When in fact they're leaving this state in record numbers. He just recently came out. I saw a clip where he said, hey, we're now the 4th largest economy in the world. If in fact that's the case, that's in no part thanks to his leadership or lack thereof. Because what it's done, actually, his leadership, it's just led to a lot of people with money who used to be headquartered here to decide, hey, I'm going to leave this state. This is out of control, man.
Right.
They're over-regulating me. They're taxing me. They're making it harder for me to do business here, all the red tape and all the bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so have you heard the latest company, Rebecca, that's decided to leave the state? At least from the standpoint of their corporate headquarters, right? They're still going to do business in the state from the standpoint of their footprint here. However, their corporate headquarters has decided to up and leave. Have you heard the news?
I have not, but you want me to guess?
Yeah, why don't you guess?
I would say Walmart.
Oh, well, they're not even here though. They're in like Bentonville, Arkansas.
Oh, well, then I'm wrong.
They're not headquartered here. Willow Rocks. Yeah, Willow Rocks in the house.
And Bill.
Thanks for showing up tonight. It says Newsom, he shit the bed with his podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, that podcast is terrible.
Yeah, he's in campaign mode. And I would say, so getting back to our who's leaving the state? Who do you think it is? You said what?
I said Walmart.
No,
but I was wrong because Walmart's not. You said it's not even in the state.
No, what we've had in this state is a lot of companies who used to do insurance here are deciding to actually stop doing insurance here in this state because of all of the wildfires.
Well, farmers, I think, already left.
Yes, they did. That's not who it is. So a lot of insurance companies have been leaving the state, And it's becoming increasingly more difficult for people who have homes here to insure their properties, because if you live in a wildfire hazard severity zone, a lot of people are being dropped. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how things go moving forward. But the latest to leave their corporate headquarters and move to Austin, Texas is Realtor.com.
Would have never guessed that.
No, you would have never guessed that. But here's something that you may not have guessed either. Your favorite burger.
Oh, McDonald's?
In-N-Out Burger is moving its corporate headquarters from Irvine, California to Franklin, Tennessee. So congratulations, Tennessee. You've been doing something right to attract a very successful.
Now, wasn't that founded in Southern California?
Yes, it was. And still they're going to have stores here, and it's not like they're leaving the state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, they may, because with the minimum wage to flip burgers at In-N-Out, along with every other fast food restaurant, it's now $20 an hour. They may decide, this is we're not making a lot of money here. I don't know. So they may stop the growth of new stores. I don't know what their long-term outlook is, but again, that's liberal leadership for you.
So that's almost enough to get me to leave California.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. So good night, Lisa.
Good night, Lisa.
Yep. Thank you for joining us. And London says he needs to get a maggot bucket going. Plenty of roadkill in northeastern Oklahoma. You know what I saw, which was kind of crazy, and I'm sure you folks that are out in that area probably see this all the time. But when we drove through Missouri, man, there was like freaking armadillo everywhere dead on the road. So I don't know if that's a thing out your way, but another thing that we saw like in Texas is there's fucking dead deer like every mile.
Yeah.
Every mile there's like a caged up deer just like got smoked on the road. So they got a lot of wildlife issues out there on the highways. But yeah, the maggot bucket's cool. You just got to have room for it, and it's going to smell like.
Just make sure it's away from the house.
It's going to smell real bad for 3-4 days, and then it starts to taper off. It's not too bad. Let's see. You got Double Oz says she's got 8 roosters to process next month. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, you tell me, Rebecca. What would you say? How many do you think we have out there yet to go?
Oh, there's probably 3 to 4 roosters out there.
Then that'll leave us like what, 1 rooster out of 19?
You mean a hen?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's not looking good, man.
It's not. There's one for sure I can say is a hen.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can.
There's a couple more that I think maybe are hens, but they're young, so
yeah,
it's hard.
Right. Yeah, London says he likes the chicken videos. More vids. Yeah, I'm just trying to plug along here, not trying to push too hard on trying to make content over just whatever, but there'll be something coming out this weekend, London. So keep your eyes peeled for that for sure. So yeah. So were you going to say something, Rebecca?
I was. We talked about, I don't know if it was last episode of, learning how to sew. It might've been the episode before that, but anyhow, one of the things that I was going to say that if you're doing the homesteading thing and you have children, is to actually teach them how to cook. Kids open the refrigerator and they look in, and I'm sure you've all experienced this. They look in the refrigerator and they say that there's nothing to eat. Although the refrigerator is completely full, it's just that you actually have to make the sandwich, or you have to make what's in there. There's plenty of food in there.
Yeah.
You just have to physically do it yourself. And the only reason why I bring this up is when our son moved out, because he used to say that all the time. When our son moved out, the light bulb went on, and he says, "Okay, I get it, Mom. I get it."
Yeah. Well, you're fucking starving. Yeah, I guess I can do something with that can of Spam.
We don't want to talk about the spam.
Yeah. So let's see here. Skane's girl says that she almost hit 2 deer last week, just barely getting past my driveway. Yeah, that happens here occasionally. Our daughter hit a deer last year, I think, and her husband hit a deer. They got quite a bunch that hang out in the corridor leading out to their house. We've been pretty fortunate. We haven't had any deer that we've hit, but they're around for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they are definitely around, but not like they are in some places, man. I was blown away driving through Texas. That was crazy.
Yeah, but there are quite a bit.
Yeah. Bill Warner, good evening. How are you doing this evening? Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, he says it's the same here in Lower Michigan near the Mackinac Bridge with dead elk roadkill. Semis have 3-inch tube grill and nose guards. Yeah, really important, I suppose. Some of the equipment from some of our northern units in Cal Fire, they would equip all of their utilities and light duty vehicles with brush guards just for that reason, because of the deer. And yeah,
it's pretty impressive to watch the elk when they're migrating, though.
Oh yeah, they are a beautiful animal. Bill Zegley is in the house, Lewisburg, Tennessee. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Bill.
Yeah, I remember that race that I'm getting ready to run here. That was one of the highlights for me. It was like just getting dusk, and I was probably about mile, 45 into the thing. And the sun was kind of, coming down and out across this valley. There was fucking bugling elk chasing a bunch of females. And it was super cool to see, yeah, they're a cool animal. Yeah.
They are.
DHT in the house. Thanks for joining us. Never too late.
Hello.
Never too late to join. So thanks for stopping in, visiting us from the Commonwealth of
beautiful California.
No, Massachusetts.
Oh, yes. Yeah. She's not in California. We are in California.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Are we? You sure?
We are in California. Last time I checked.
Right. Yeah. So getting back to what I was talking about, California has had the highest outbound migration of all 50 states, despite what, Mr. Newsom's trying to sell. Like, oh, look at the great job I've done. Look how amazing California is. But you have more people leaving in 2024 than any other state. Any of the 50 states, more people have left this fucking state for places that are a little bit less restrictive, like Texas and Florida and Arizona and Tennessee and, and the like. And, one of the reasons I think people are just kind of getting fed up with it is, homelessness. Mm-hmm. And, it's a big problem here in this state. More so than in any other state. Again, Californians make up about 10% of the entire population in the United States, but virtually half of all of the homeless people in the U.S. live in California. And so I'm sure you guys have all seen images of homeless encampments in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. And, that's all places that are dominated by Democrat policies. And it's just a shame to see that, we don't really have the representation. We've got a lot of great people in the state. Mm-hmm. We've got people that just want the same things that everybody else wants, which is, safe communities and good neighbors and an ability to carve out a meaningful existence for you and your family. That's what everybody wants, despite whether you're in this state or you're in that state. I would say that's what everybody who believes in the American dream. Right.
Right. Well, and you have to be not the people who drive past them up to your house that's up on the hill.
Yeah, but see, even they want the same thing. That's why they drive past them. Their kids are in fucking good schools. They're doing the thing that everybody else is doing. They're just doing it at whatever level they so choose. They're not willing to do anything to help the people that they drive past, but they want safe communities. They want
They
want to
do.
live their life according to how they want to live it. That's what everybody wants, right? But that's not really what most people are getting when they have leadership. And I use my finger quotes very loosely when I'm talking about leadership, because I don't know how much these people are leading the people as much as what they're doing is destroying a once great state by allowing and encouraging homeless encampments in cities around the country. And I think that even legacy media is usually in the habit of making excuses for Democrat policies and politicians, but they've, I think, in many ways begun to, admit the efforts to combat homelessness don't really appear to be working. In virtually every street corner and every intersection in our town, not every, but in a lot of them, you see the same cast of characters every time you drive by, standing there holding a sign, begging for something, right? Rather than saying, I'm going to go out and use these two legs that I stand on and use whatever physical and mental capability I have to go out and earn a living. They're going to stand there with a sign and beg for money.
But it's been acceptable. Somebody's been driven by and handed them, and
that's why they're doing it, of course, right? It's like fishing. That's why the fisherman goes out there every day. They don't always catch a fish, but at some point they'll get a little nibble and they're like, ooh, I got a fish, right? And then that's what keeps them coming back. That's what keeps them buying more lures and more bait and going down and getting a boat, right? It's the same fucking thing. So people giving these folks money, and again, that's their choice to do so. We've talked about that before. I'm not going to disparage them for doing that, but I'm just saying I'm not willing to do that because it just further incentivizes and encourages people to stand out there and do, and want something for nothing, right? But we've got that going in our state. We've got that going in the town that I live in, which is largely a conservative leaning county, conservative leaning area. So, when you got people living underneath bridges and in the creek beds and in the washes, and then when it gets dark at night, you've got fucking people that are drug addicted walking around screaming at who knows what. You don't really feel safe in your own town. And it was never like that when we first moved here.
It wasn't like that when we first moved here.
No.
There were a few people who did roam around, but they weren't beggars.
Right. They were just your normal folks that, kind of had maybe an issue or a problem, and they were friendly and people knew who they were and, hey, how you doing or whatever. But yeah. Yeah, London says, the last 10 years of my career was primarily working with the homeless folk in Indio, California. I can tell you it tripled during those years. Yeah. See, they don't have this problem in other places that don't throw money at the problem. Right?
So that's one of the things that always sticks in my head.
It's an industry.
Where we're going, because you had said, there wasn't any homeless where they were at. And she says, because we take care of our own.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is kind of the answer in a sense, but, yeah, I think people have just gotten to the point where they kind of given up on life, and then this is an easier option for them. London says that the homeless in Coachella Valley, and Coachella Valley's in Southern California, down, headed out east of Los Angeles and Riverside. It's out in the desert area. And he says that the homeless issue is unbelievable. Granted, a lot has a drug component to it, plenty of mental illness too, and no services for them. Yeah. I question whether or not I do think that it's important to provide services for people, but I don't think the answer is necessarily throwing more money at the issue, because all that really does is it creates more of an industry. And there isn't really many people benefiting from the services, because there's a lot of services and people are just not taking advantage of the services.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's places where people can go to get cleaned up, but largely they don't want to clean up. And they've made the choice that, oh, I just want to be out on the street and do dope. And they don't want to clean up and go into a facility or a program or something like that to get their life right. And so it's just this continual, like, hey, we've got this fund of, you know, this program, and we're employing people, and there's money flowing in from NGOs and all of this stuff, and the government and the local entities are somehow scraping their portion of it off so that they benefit, right? I mean, that's going on right here in our town with the project that was started through, you know, support from non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and different public-private partnerships that have taken place. And it's all based on like, hey, look, we can get money, so let's do this thing. You'll get a certain portion. You know, I don't know, man. It's just an industry. But nonetheless, Bird Lady's in the house. How are you doing this evening?
Hello, Bird Lady.
Let's see. I don't know. Are we buffering, Bill? I don't know. It says that we are buffering really bad. I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't see us glitching. So I'm assuming everybody's still getting us 5x5, but who knows? We're just rambling on here talking about some homeless folks.
So Bird Lady, I think, told us how many chickens she had at one point.
Like 53.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't remember.
Yeah. And?
I was just curious.
Oh, yeah, I believe it was like 53.
She gets crazy eggs.
That's right. In fact, she may even have more now since the last episode. So might need to do a check with you, Bird Lady. Any more birds come in? So I guess the question is what do we do? You know, and this would be a question for anyone listening, right? Because I think we all, in some ways, have an opinion about what to do about this. But, you know, do we have a solution? Do you have a solution, Rebecca, about what to do about homelessness? Is the answer to throw more money at it or to provide more programs, or should we go about it in another way?
I think we've got enough programs out there.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as giving them more money, I think as long as we are giving them more handouts, we are just enforcing them to be homeless.
Who's giving them money? I don't think anybody's just handing homeless people money. What are you saying? I don't think that's happening. Are you saying that people are just handing?
Well, they're standing out there with signs. People drive by,
yes.
They hand them money.
Sure.
Handing them money is just feeding their problem. It's not.
Yes, I agree.
It's not helping their problem. You know, it's not helping them to.
Yeah, I agree.
To change.
I agree.
So, they need to get to a point where they have to want to make something of their life other than sitting on the corner with a sign.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I don't think that that's the right answer. It's just to stand, you know, but
does Bird Lady have more chickens?
She's saying she has 153.
Oh my goodness.
What is going on, man? Oh man, is there an end game to the birds? Bird Lady, are you going for record numbers here? Or is she planning on feeding the whole town? Maybe that's a philanthropic.
She's got the corner market on the.
It's a philanthropic endeavor. She's looking at feeding the entire community, which I think that is fantastic. So that's awesome. And she says that she just hatched out some guinea keats and goslings. Wow. Wow. Yeah. I have no desire to have anything to do with guineas. They are just a little bit too vocal for me. Yeah.
So I think that if there's a person that's out there that's mentally ill, and we go back and forth on this,
mm-hmm.
I think that they should I think there should be a facility that they actually need to be in to get treatment for their mental illness. Now, figuring out if they are mentally ill or are they mentally ill because they're on drugs,
right,
is a whole nother.
And do we keep those people there despite the fact that
they don't want to be there?
That they don't want to be there, even though they're, I mean, where do we go with this? That's the whole question. It's easy.
If they're harmful to themselves or they're harmful to others, yes, I think they should have to stay.
Yeah, I think that's probably a reasonable solution. I did hear Trump, but I only heard him say this one time. I wish I would have tried to retain this clip because I would like to play it, but it was almost kind of like, I don't know if I like this, man. The way he was talking about, hey, we're going to round up all these people who are on the street, homelessness, and we're going to clean up, and they're, all these people that are mentally ill, and we're going to do this. We're going to put them in these facilities and stuff. And I was just thinking, sounds kind of good, but like, that's kind of a slippery slope for me. I don't think we should be rounding people up unless, like you said, they are a threat or a danger to themselves or to others. Then I think it's appropriate. But there's a lot of people who, where do you make that call on? Because, right? It is, this person's this, and then now you're forcing them to take medication to anesthetize them. And it conjures up, the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, that's some creepy shit, man. When people are being held in a place where and I'm not saying that's what it just kind of for me. Right.
Right. Well, since I worked in a facility and my thoughts on that, the ones that were able-bodied and could actually go out into a work program and do something, I thought that was great. They should go out and go into group homes and be as productive as they possibly can.
Yeah.
The folks I worked with were profound. So they never were going to be able to do that.
Yes.
And I don't think that they should have gone out into group homes because they were not going to get the medical attention that they needed.
Yeah. Well, those people were obviously mentally retarded. So, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just your average person who maybe has a drug issue or PTSD or whatever, some vet, or there's all kinds of people with a lot of different mental issues, man. They don't have to be fully profoundly retarded. They could be mildly like have an issue. I mean, there's a lot of different mental shit that people deal with, and everybody deals with something. And so I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting way that we've cast people aside in society, and it's easy to drive past them. I drive past them. I'm not saying that, I have an answer for what to do for people. I would love to help people, but at the same time, are you being taken advantage of by your kindness? Right. It's easy just to like, hey, I'm going to do this nice thing for this person. And if you want to do that out of the goodness of your heart and that makes you feel good, then you do it. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, just to enable somebody to stay in the position that they're in, I don't know if that's the right answer either, because it's easy for the person who doesn't have to have those people up in their neighborhood that live up in the hills where they're secure. They don't want those people in their neighborhood. So you know what they do? They roll down their window at the stop sign. Here, dude, here's $5. Here's 20. Stay down here. Don't be up at my house asking for a job. That's what people are doing, man. They're just like, hey, stay right there on that corner because that's where you belong. Here's some money. It makes me feel good. Now I can roll my window up and drive up into the hills and feel good about myself that I did something for you. When in fact, they don't know if that person's going to take that money and use that to get a hit of heroin that will kill them. They have no idea what that money's going to be used for, but yet they did that out of the goodness of their heart. And so I understand it's just like it's an interesting thing when you think about like people's motivations. Are we doing the right thing with society? But like I said, with that clip that I saw from Trump, I was like, man, I don't know if I agree with you, dude. Start rounding people up that are homeless and just putting them in places. It sounds good, right? Because we all want to live in safe communities. We want the problem to go away. But it's a very complex issue when you have mental illness coupled with people that are just drug addicted, coupled with people that just don't want to fucking do anything and they just want to live on the street.
There's that as well. They just want to hitchhike from place to place and
Yeah.
bum money off of, and that's just the way they live.
Yeah. Yeah. Bird Lady is the master at all birds. I can see this. 179 birds. Where do you, oh my goodness. 3 muscovies have also gone broody and are sitting on nests. A lot going on. Wow. That is a lot of food, man. That's a lot of chicken food for poultry. We feed a fair amount of food and we don't like totally free feed them.
Yeah. We get scraps from a
Well,
deli.
She's doing that as well. She had said she had, scored some different things from local vendors and getting some free food to supplement and stuff. And that's all really good to do.
See, London agrees. That's a big number.
179 chickens, man. That's like you got yourself a hatchery, or that's you should be doing something with that.
Need to start taking orders.
Yeah. London says that he won't give homeless any money, but I would buy them food. Yeah, that's a nice thing to do. And if they accept that, then that's, fantastic. Yeah.
Yes, I would agree with London as far as handing them food.
Yeah.
But I have seen homeless turn it down because it wasn't what they wanted.
Yeah, I've seen that too. It's kind of weird. You go to give somebody something and then they're like, hey, what is that? Like, I don't want that. Okay. Sorry, dude.
Then you're not that hungry.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting, but yet thorny issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Homeless encampments. I don't know if that's something that other people are seeing in their communities, but it is something that's very prevalent here in the great state of California, which is one of the things that, Gavin doesn't talk about that we're leading in. We lead the nation in a lot of things, not just being the 4th largest economy, but we lead in a lot of statistics that are not really that somebody would want to tout, crime and illegal aliens and on all those things, right?
So in the town that we live in, they end up kind of grouping up. There's like a big group of them. There's a particular park here that they'll set their little makeshift tents and whatnot up in underneath the brush and whatnot. And what happens is you get too many going and they end up clearing them out.
Yeah, they just go somewhere else.
And then they actually trim up the brush until it's up higher where they can't come back and put that. But as Eric said, they just go somewhere else. They're not necessarily leaving your town.
No, they're not solving the problem. They're just like, hey, we're cleaning this area out because they got a lot of complaints. And then they go in with the sheriff and, roust them out of there and clean up their encampment. And then they'll wind up moving and migrating to another park or another place. And then pretty soon they're, it's getting kind of bad. But, obviously, another thing that's really prevalent here is illegal immigration. And it's very much of a hot topic in last year's presidential election. But if you think about it, it's actually a perennial issue that comes up in every election. It's one of those wedge issues or, divisive things that people can use in a campaign. But, it's interesting how it always had been something that both sides of the aisle kind of wanted to get behind. They wanted to say, hey, well, we need to do something about illegal immigration, dating back to when I was a kid. And I used to hear him talk about it, whether it was Reagan, he spoke a lot about it, right? Mm-hmm. Cleaning up that and all the campaigns leading up to it, and Clinton and Obama, and they all fucking talked about what they were going to do in illegal immigration. And I think that that's interesting. They were all very successful in deporting people who were here illegally, but there's never been more of an opposition to deporting illegal aliens from this country than there is right now. And, what's behind all of that? What do you think's behind that, Rebecca?
I honestly don't know. I initially, when Biden was in and running for president and they were all flooding in, I would have said at that time they needed to bring in voters. They're bringing in voters for that. But we're past that. And
I said, what's the opposition to doing illegal aliens, getting them out of here?
getting them out of
What's
here,
the opposition?
I don't know. That's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, I think I know. And it boils down to opposition to Donald Trump. If the other side, actually Biden, to his credit, they did deport a few million, which was a pretty low number in reality because we've got so many here. We did that episode earlier where I talked about who was the deporter in chief, and it was Bill Clinton. He deported about 12 million illegal aliens, and you didn't hear jack shit about it on the news. Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather and all the rest of the left-wing nut jobs that mainstream media comprises, they didn't say two words about it. They didn't say two words about the fact that Obama deported millions of illegal aliens. But now it's a big issue because it's Donald Trump. But this is a topic that, something that he ran on that he was very much out front of. This isn't a surprise to anyone. Nobody who voted for Trump is now surprised that, he's deporting all these people. But I don't know. It's pretty interesting to see how that's being used. And I think the other reason why it's actually, I think why it's such an issue right now is because that's what the Democrats need in order to change this country in a way that can't be changed back from. They want to change this country to a one-party state, just like California, like I've been talking about Gavin Newsom and his gaslighting of the truth. Mm-hmm. They're trying to do that right now in the media, suggesting that the Trump administration's trying to separate people from their families and this and that. And, I actually heard Tom Homan come out. I had a clip that I was going to play, but the volume's kind of low. So I just figured I didn't want to play it because it would be lame. But he was basically saying what he said earlier, which, hey, we're not deporting a U.S. citizen in that child or we're deporting that kid, but only because the mother wants her kid. The mother is the illegal alien. You come here, you don't automatically become a citizen because you have a fucking child in this country. Your child now has citizenship rights, birthright citizenship, but you don't. You're still an illegal alien. And so they sent some people back, and now the media is freaking out about it like it's a real issue. Mm-hmm. And it's just great to hear that guy stand up there very unapologetically saying, hey, this is what the law is. Do you people live in a place that doesn't respect the law? Because my job is to enforce the law. And it's great to hear that and great to see that. I think my fear and the trouble that I have with what's taking place right now with the deportations isn't the fact that they're happening. It's that the fact that they're being slowed up and they've had roadblocks put in front of them. I think that there's not enough deportations happening. There's millions of people that are here illegally that don't deserve to stay. And I don't care what somebody told you on the other end of shit that, once you get here, this will happen, that'll happen, this will happen. They told you wrong because that's not the way this country works. We have laws. And unfortunately, I think that it's a real problem right now. I have concern about it in that the judiciary has been weaponized. The judges that we have are corrupt. And yeah, that's great that, the Department of Justice is moving forward with some arrests and things like that, but I don't know if that's enough. I think that's very superficial. So the question I would have for anyone listening tonight, and the question I would have for you, Rebecca,
Yes.
is there's a lot of people who probably are doing some things behind the scenes that are unlawful. And in order for us to find out about that, some rules would have to be broken from the standpoint of constitutional protections. Would you be in favor, or anybody, would you be in favor of the Trump Department of Justice and the intelligence agencies doing something in a way that violates the constitutional rights of people that are subverting our processes as we know it? So what I'm referring to, let's just say the intelligence agencies, they have a lot of special things where they can listen in on people. And let's just say they do that. It's an unwarranted wiretap of one of these people behind the scenes that's organizing these protests and or going around the government. If they were to violate somebody's rights, right? We hold our rights sacred. I know conservatives are people who are fairly law-abiding for the most part, and we don't want our rights trampled upon. We don't want our First Amendment rights trampled upon. We don't want our Second Amendment rights trampled on. We don't want our Fourth Amendment rights trampled on. We don't want our Fifth Amendment right taken away from us. And so we hold those things as like, hey, this is my right. But would you be in favor of the government at this point in time, the Trump administration and the power that they have to bring to bear, to violate some rights of some people that are behind the scenes doing some funky shit? Warrantless wiretaps.
Aren't they all warrantless? I mean, as far as if you're wiretapping somebody to go into something, nobody knows they're wiretapped.
Well,
correct?
Essentially, yes, but that's what it's. Would you be in favor of wiretapping, whether you call it warrantless or not? It's not there. It's not constitutionally protected. Can't just go listening in on people.
I would say yes. They listen in on us.
Yeah. I would say I agree with that. I think that if we don't do that, I think that if this administration takes the approach that, because I've heard him say it, I've heard Kash Patel say it's the weaponization of what does he say? The weaponization of fucking government or whatever is going to end, on his watch. Well, that's fine to say, but guess what? The next time you're not in power, dude, it's not going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's probably appropriate. I think they need to start listening into some people.
Yeah.
And doing everything within their power to get to the bottom of who's behind all of these fucking leaks and all of the things that are going on right now within government. The time is ticking. Yes, it's only been 100 days since Trump's been in office. I realize that's very young in his last term as president. But again, Congress hasn't done jack shit as far as getting anything passed in a resolute way. They haven't proposed any meaningful resolute legislation. Haven't seen anything thus far. And so again, the time is ticking. And yes, we've seen a couple of judges arrested and trotted out on social media. Big deal. What about all the rest of them? What about all the rest of these governors? Just a question, because there's conversations taking place. They're not in a skiff when they're doing it, right? You know that there's conversations taking place that could be intercepted.
Mm-hmm.
They would intercept them on you if they wanted to. So they would use it against you and put you in jail as a citizen and make an example out of you. Or they would do that when the party in power is no longer in power. I guarantee you. So I think the time is ticking, and I would support that.
Mm-hmm. I think Bird Lady had a question for you, and I
Uh-huh.
think London has a question for you.
Okay, let's see. We're here. Double O's.
No, Birdie, just above double O's. Right?
Okay, right there. A judge would issue a warrant for a wiretap, correct? Yes. I just don't know how there's so many judges that are, have been corrupted by everything. Obviously, presidents get a chance to put in, these lower court federal judicial appointees. And for whatever reason, they're somehow like a lifetime tenure. So now you're just this like entity that can throw a monkey wrench into what the executive branch is doing. And then it has to go through the process of going up through the higher court, which it's already done on a few different occasions. And Trump has won some and he's lost some. And I just don't have confidence in the fact that it's going to end well, because these judges have been politicized. It's not just the parties. It's the people who are supposed to be upholding and defending the Constitution, which we all believe we have rights under. And you have rights only as long as the people who are overseeing your rights are willing to uphold them, right?
Mm-hmm. And then London's got a question.
Yeah. Yeah, it says, are you talking about behind the scenes, like 2 judges arrested for assisting illegals with escaping arrest? Yeah. Again, I think those 2 judges were, that's a great start. I think that's a great start, because as we heard for many, many months leading up to the whole Trump thing, when they were trying to put him behind bars with his convictions that were falsely kind of put out there, that they were trotting around saying nobody's above the law. No one's above the law. There's a lot of clips right now where they're playing on social media highlighting what all these people said, whether it's Biden or any number of politicians, high ranking. No one is above the law. And now they're freaking out because these people who are openly subverting the law were caught red-handed, and they're freaking out like, oh, this is tyranny. This is what we feared. Donald Trump is a tyrant. It's like, well, this is what he ran on. Mm-hmm. Upholding and defending the Constitution and bringing some sense back into our politics. Because everybody that's listening to this is expected to uphold the law. If you don't pay your taxes, you run the risk of having somebody show up and say, you need to do this. And if you don't, they're going to come with guns and arrest you by the force of the government because you failed to do what you were supposed to do. And there's plenty of people within government right now, as we sit here, that are scheming and doing all kinds of sort of shit that you would be thrown in jail for and made an extreme example of.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I just wonder when the Epstein list is going to come out. All of this shit I think is kind of a distraction for that, because we're not going to see any of that, I believe. I don't believe we're going to see any of that. Again, Pam Bondi's on fucking TV every day on multiple channels. What the hell's going on with that? Don't you have a job to do? Right? I don't get it.
I don't.
I just don't get it. It's amazing to me how things are going. But let me ask you, Rebecca, since we're talking about this deporting illegal aliens, I know that a lot of people maybe on the left, they're all in a tither over the fact that the Trump administration wants to deport people. And they've come out and said, hey, no, this is what we're going to do, and we're not going to apologize for it. And so there's this clip I want to play that shows what the Trump administration is doing, which in some ways I think is quite antagonistic. It's a little bit like, hey, I'm putting this right back in your face. See what is going on here?
Yesterday marked President Trump's first 100 days in office, and all of mainstream media was reporting that he has the lowest polls ever in history. So today, the White House has put together pictures of every single illegal immigrant and criminal that this administration has arrested and or deported. As you can see here, there's a long line of them. It shows their picture blown up and underneath the crime that they committed. This is pretty incredible, and I believe the administration's way of saying, we don't care about your polling numbers. This is actually what this administration is doing for the country. We are getting rid of criminals. We are making this country safer. And look, now you can see it for yourself. So regardless what the poll numbers are saying, this is what we are actually doing. So if you were to vote in the poll about how Trump is doing in his first 100 days, would you be with mainstream media, or would you say that he's doing a great job? As always, I want to hear what you think about all of this down below.
So I do like the feistiness of the Trump administration by never being apologetic for what they're doing. I don't think that they need to apologize for deporting people that are here illegally that have no right to be here. They're very matter of fact about it. You know, in fact, they punch back a little bit I heard Tom Homan saying that, you know, I didn't hear the same level of criticism or concern for any of the people that have been killed by any of the mothers that are grieving the loss of the family member that's been killed by these people. I haven't heard any of that from you people sitting here in the media room, but yet you're so concerned about this child who you're saying should be here and is now no longer here. Well, they're no longer here because the mother made that choice. Not only in the fact that they said they didn't want to be separated from their child, but they made a choice when they came here and got pregnant on U.S. soil as a fucking illegal alien. And now you're going home. So you can take your child with you and come through the right way if you want to come back. And I think it's really great that we have an administration that's at least punching back on a media that is so disingenuous, that's lost all credibility with most people that are reasonable and thinking people in the United States. But a lot of people are being coerced to believe one thing or another rather than just saying, gee, that's interesting. These people are here illegally, so shouldn't they, come through the right way? But instead they're being gaslit by the left-wing legacy media and then given some kind of a further incitement on social media with what's being fed to them in their algorithm to think that the positions that they hold are popular opinions in the country when in fact they're not. I think the majority of people are sensible and realize, I just want to live in a country that has reasonable immigration policies and reasonable rules, and that everybody kind of follows those rules. Because when you don't have people following rules, you have a society that doesn't really function well. And so I don't know, it's pretty interesting to observe all of this.
Well, I don't think they're necessarily giving you the full story. I think they're just telling you, oh, they're deporting this child.
Yeah, of course.
To pull at your bleeding heart. I think
course.
It's Marco Rubio that I heard him say.
Little Marco.
The mother is being deported because she's illegal. The child wants to go with its mom.
That's right.
So that's why the child's going.
That's right.
We are not deporting the child.
That's right.
And that was the story. At least that's a story that I heard.
Sure. And I saw Tom Homan say the same exact thing. And I mean, that dude has been a rock star. I do think that the deportations, again, are not going to be nearly the numbers that he wants, not nearly the numbers that Trump wants. And quite quite honestly, not nearly the number that this country, in fact, deserves. I don't know. I think that you can only go as far as to look at what's happening in other countries that are ahead of us in this migration from cultures of people that come here that don't want to assimilate. You know, they're having a lot of problems over in Europe right now with their immigration policies, that they were just open border, like, hey, come here. And now they've got all these different cultures and people who have changed the fabric of what the country was. And I understand that's what happens over time, but it doesn't happen all at once. And that's what has been forced upon societies. Societies do change over time. That's just an evolutionary process that is natural, right? Mm-hmm. But it's up to us, the people that live within that society, to decide, yes, let's make those changes. We want this to go this way. You don't do that by opening up the border, as Sleepy Joe and all of the cohorts that were surrounding him did, and allow millions of people from around the world that have no interest, really. Well, I shouldn't say have no interest, but many of them will never assimilate because they're not expected to. They're going to come here and just do what they do. And so that's why you see the lawlessness and you see the crime and the heinous things that have happened to some people. Those pictures on the White House lawn, yeah, those are fantastic. But if you're going to tell me that that's all of the people that they've deported, that's a fucking big F for me. That's a fail, man. Is that all that Trump has like been able to deport since he's been in 100 days? Or is those signs that we saw? I hope that's not all of them. That's not a good sign, man, for me, right?
Yeah, I don't know the exact other than
that's what she said. Now, I don't know, again, if those are just like the most wanted and the people that are the most heinous, but I mean, there needs to be people flying off this continent by the thousands every day.
Mm-hmm. But the courts are trying to stop him.
I will tell you this. I didn't tell you this, but I will tell you this. And I'm not going to mention anybody's name, so don't even bring it up. But when we were at that party a few weeks back,
mm-hmm.
Somebody told me that ICE came into our town. The feds came into this town, into this county, and went to our county jail and said, hey, where are all the fucking rapists? Where are all the people who are illegal that need to get up out of here? And they came through and they cleaned some dudes out. Yeah, not just rapists, but just illegal aliens that they had incarcerated in our county jail. And I got that from somebody who knows people in law enforcement. And, you know, he would know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was pretty cool. He said, yeah, man, fucking ICE came in with, I don't know if it was Borders, Customs and Border Enforcement plus ICE came here and scooped up some dudes and took them out of here.
Huh.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. But that needs to be happening all over the country. But see, we have a county here where they're going to be welcome. Our county sheriff's going to be like, yeah, man, he's right there. There's your problem. They're not going to be like, hey, come over to my house and live in my basement because I want to harbor illegal. That doesn't happen in this county. We got a 2A solid, you know, it's a good county sheriff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, they got together with all law enforcement, and law enforcement's all behind that. So, you know, not all fucked up here in California.
Not 100%.
Not 100%. But nonetheless, yeah. So I think we're going to call it a night, man. I don't know. What do you think?
We didn't really have a ton to talk about.
Yeah, that's a hot topic, but you know, it's always a hot topic, and I just think that it's one that I think a lot of people are concerned about, whether they voice it or not. I think it is on the backs of, or on the, you know, on people's minds, is you know, how our country has been impacted, and it's how it's going to reflect upon this country in the future, because most of us have families and we think about our families and we think about what are we leaving them? What's going to be left for them? What's it going to be like for their children and beyond? We would hope that we would leave them a better place. And so it is just interesting to me how, policies that are so incredibly destructive to the fabric of what this country is going to be, all in the name of just retaining power. They don't really give two shits about the people that came here from Senegal or Colombia or whatever. All they care about is the fact that, hey, these people are going to be somebody we can put on the voter rolls, and we can create some other bullshit fucking policies and programs that we can funnel money and scrape it off the backs of hardworking Americans and funnel it to NGOs. That's all they are thinking about. It's very short term. They don't ever think about beyond their own generation. In fact, many of the people don't even have another generation. A lot of them are single.
Yeah.
Not every one of them. I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of these politicians or people that have these opinions about how things should be, but yet they don't have any lineage. It's going to be them, and then that's it. They don't have.
That's like the single person trying to tell you how to parent.
Exactly. So, yeah, he is a good constitutional sheriff. But see, that's what we elect here in this county, right? It's not a liberal county. And so it's not hard to get, a permit for your gun and all that shit. Whereas you go to other counties in this state and you're not going to get that. Not unless you're connected, politician or a judge or, some kind of a person who knows somebody. You're not going to get a license to carry in the Bay Area. Forget about it, man. You gotta have some juice. Got to be somebody connected. But here, everyday Joe, unless you're not a criminal, you can just go, do the thing. Go pay all your fucking money and pack your weapon. So constitutional sheriffs are good. And that's really the one position locally that really does matter is your sheriff. And here's a good reason why. Because when they had all those lockdowns and stuff from COVID, there were some sheriffs. In fact, there was one up in Northern California and in the far north part of our state that said, no, we're not shutting anything down. Newsom, fuck you. We're not shutting our no. And they kept their shit open. That was like the one county in this entire state. In fact, in many, many states throughout the country that never shut down. And the reason why they didn't shut down is because their sheriff said, we're not shutting down. You're not coming here and doing nothing.
And they did just fine.
Right? Yeah, they did fine. Right. They did like high Mennonite population, high agriculture, high just rural people that don't want to be messed with. And the sheriff knows what his constituents are. And he's just said, no, we're not doing that. And so, again, Newsom being the bastard that he is, he did some punitive things with regard to, but we're going to withhold this from you or whatever. Right. And, it's kind of like what Trump's doing, but see, Trump's saying you're not doing that because this is the new federal thing. That's what Newsom did. Right. It's an executive order. We're closing down the schools. We're closing down all businesses it's a health emergency. The sheriff said, yeah, I don't think so, dude. No, we're not shutting it down. So a good sheriff, that's a good vote for your local county.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, you got anything you want to leave folks with, Rebecca? Sounds like we're winding down here.
We are winding down.
Yeah.
I'd say, hey, stay on top of the vegetables and fruit that are coming in, and
you stay on top of the vegetables.
Stay on top of all your goods that are coming in.
Yeah.
Get them canned, freeze dried, or dehydrated.
Yeah.
Stock up,
because that's what you're going to
take care of yourself. Yes, that's what I'm going to be doing.
That's right.
So everybody else has to do it too.
Hey guys, well, thanks for joining us again. And yeah, we always kind of appreciate sitting down here and chopping it up. But hope you enjoyed this evening's episode, and we will be back this coming week, I guess. We don't have anything that's going to prevent us from coming in, and I hope to, but we may have to have a couple of episodes in the future where we dip out, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyhow, thanks for joining us, guys. And again, good night.
Good evening.